Here are my first impressions of Yunjin, the new 4-star Geo polearm character. The first thing that stood out to me about Yunjin, and I think to many people, was Yunjin's ancient Chinese opera singing. It really threw me off at first, and that's even though I've heard Chinese opera singing before as a kid. For people who've never heard this type of singing before at all in their entire lives, I'm sure they were thrown off even more than I was. That's not surprising either. I googled it on Wikipedia, and this type of singing has apparently been around for over 1,000 years, so it's not exactly modern music. Even in China, in modern times, I'm pretty sure this type of music is not especially popular anymore among the younger folk. So MiHoYo probably knew they were going to get made fun of by basically everyone for integrating this type of music into one of their new characters, yet they stuck through with it anyway. That's uncommon for a company to do, isn't it? I think a lot of people and companies with money on the line aren't willing to purposefully put themselves in a situation where they can be easily made fun of by others. So, in my opinion, by displaying Yunjin's opera singing so prominently, for the sake of sticking to their vision of the character, MiHoYo is being pretty bold, and I actually have a lot of respect for that. MiHoYo deserves props in this specific situation, in my opinion. This type of singing honestly isn't something I would normally enjoy listening to, but I can still appreciate that MiHoYo is sticking to their guns with it. I do think it makes Yunjin a lot more unique too. And who knows, maybe one of these days the singing won't sound as strange to me. Because after all, if you hear something a bunch of times, the 100th time you hear it, it probably won't sound quite as weird anymore. The second thing I wanted to talk about was Yunjin's elemental skill. Is anyone else excited by the fact that we finally have another counter move like Beto's elemental skill? By timing the button press of Yunjin's elemental skill exactly when you get hit, you get the level 2 version of Yunjin's skill instead of the base version of her skill. So by pairing Beto with Yunjin, it should be possible to mitigate a lot of damage with just well-timed parries. That's especially true if you run the Thundering Fury set on Beto and give her the Sacrificial Greatsword. Eventually, if we get 4 characters with counter moves, it might be possible to mitigate almost all damage with just counters. You could just switch between characters each time one counter goes on cooldown for an infinite rotation of counters. I'm probably getting too ahead of myself, but I'm personally pretty excited for another character that has a parry mechanic that rewards good timing. Finally, the last thing I wanted to discuss about Yunjin was how one of her passive skills promotes using her on a team with all different elements. I feel like for a lot of the Geo characters, you're often encouraged to pair them together, so it's cool to see that Yunjin has a passive that's breaking that mold and going in the completely opposite direction. This passive is literally even called Breaking Conventions, so that speaks for itself. There's also actually a jump in the damage bonus from 3 to 4 characters with different elements. The increase rate is 2.5% for each different element, but for the 4th character that damage bonus jumps up to 4%. So I guess this passive really wants you to use Yunjin on a team with all varied elements. I don't think that this damage bonus from this passive is super crazy or anything, but I still thought it was kinda neat. Yunjin really seems like a very unique character in a lot of ways. Pretty cool, if you ask me. So yeah, those are my first impressions of Yunjin. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you feel like it, comment your own thoughts if you got anything to say, and yeah, have a good one. Take care.